da, 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 do, do. Da, do, da, 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 da. Da, do, da, 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 do, do. Alright. I'm finally back, guys. You probably thought was scrapping this series, and for a bit I was considering it, but nope. Here I am back with the Mario Kart track ranking series. Today we are going to be beginning the booster course pass. The main reason why I took a break is because, I mean, look at all of these lists I have to keep track of, but, you know, I'd say overall it's going pretty well. Honestly, in the future, I may end up just saving the overall rankings for a bonus video. In fact, I think that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. But for now, I think... So because of that, I think I'm going to scrap the section at the end where I put them into the overall ranking, because I feel like right now that's just way too many lists to keep up with. In the meantime, though, I think it's about time we had to waste no more time and just get on with the video, you know? Yeah, sorry, you can tell it's been a bit since I've streamed. Luckily, this track is actually putting me in a bit of a good mood, though you can kind of see the graphical downgrade from just this first shot. Look at those buildings. But yeah, here we are with the very first track of the booster course pass, Tour Paris Promenade. So one thing that I will say is that I do think this was the perfect choice for our first location for the booster course pass. You know, with a lot of tracks, like, how many people have wanted to visit Paris at some point in their life? I'm sure plenty of people. And so this is a really good choice to begin it all with. But does it make for a good track? Because, as you probably know, the tour tracks are pretty infamous for having, like, nothing going on. I do like this glider section into the Eiffel Tower. And I like how the section over there splits. Hopefully the person will take the other route the next time. But in the meantime, I don't know. Like, yeah, there's not really much going on, but I feel like they're doing a decent job disguising it. I mean, we haven't really seen, like, any interesting set pieces apart from that Eiffel Tower glide, though. I guess the Piranha Plant was kind of cool, but that's really about it. Dude, if you don't throw a banana behind you, you're an idiot. Then again, I guess you're just gonna outrun it. Or not. Well, anyway, yeah. Now, you may be wondering why I'm still showing it, despite the fact that these laps were the same. Well, that's probably if you weren't aware of the gimmick of these. As you can see, now we're going a different route. Which is the whole gimmick of these tour tracks, is that you end up going different routes as you play. It's actually a really cool gimmick. I'm glad they decided to do this. Unfortunately, I did not take the other path. If you would have went to the right at that intersection we just saw, or left if you were going the other direction, then you could have cut ahead a bit. Anyway, yeah. Then, you know. Yeah, it's kind of tough for me to tell what I think of it, because as you can see, there's not really much going on in it. But you'll see very quickly that for Tour City tracks, this one actually isn't that bad. It does a good job of representing the location, and just in general, it has this really pleasant atmosphere to it. So somewhere in B tier, I think, is a good spot for it. Maybe about here. Yeah, that looks right. So without further ado, let's move on to... Hold on a second, I need to... Yeah, okay. This seems like a good spot for it. But what about the music? That's probably something you're wondering. Well, let's give it a listen, shall we? You know, I've heard some complain about the song sounding very generic and like level 1 Paris music. To an extent, I agree, but like, just listen to this and tell me they are not just entranced in the vibes at Paris. So yeah, that's Paris Promenade. So what do I think? I mean, I know that A tier is already really packed as is, but I do think the song does deserve to go at least on the lower end of A tier. Maybe about here-ish. I I don't know. Like, it's a very short song, and I guess it's not the most, like, earth-shattering thing ever or anything, but it's just really pleasant and enjoyable. I quite like listening to it. Not really anything I think I'll actively seek, but still an enjoyable song nonetheless. So without further ado, now that that track's over, we're moving straight on to... you already know what's coming up, guys. If you've been in the Mario Kart community, you already know what's about to happen. As much as I'd love to give an unpopular opinion on this one, I mean, just look at what they did to Toad Circuit. It was already, like, look at this shot. This is the intro shot that's supposed to show how good the tracks look, and even they couldn't make it look appealing in the slightest. How does this track manage to look 10 times worse than it did on the 3DS? So yeah, I got the visual complaints out of the way. Why did they do that with the archways? Was that structure even there in the 3DS version? Whatever. Anyway, I mean, it's a fine track. As you can see, there's a decent amount of stuff going on. Honestly, this is making the track look a lot more exciting than it actually is. But, as you'll quickly see, because this was the first track in 7, was supposed to be an introduction, it is insanely short. So, there's one more thing that I should probably mention, because, yeah, that pad that you saw him drive over earlier turns into a glider ramp on the second and third laps. That's moderately cool, and I'm glad that they kept that in from 7, but that is the only bit of praise I can give this track. I mean, where else could I put it but D tier? There is, like, nothing redeemable about this track whatsoever. I guess, I mean, the only good things about this track were qualities that were already good in the 7 version, and everything else is completely terrible. The fact that this isn't the first track, or the fact that they chose a starter track to follow up the first track in the series instead of doing a second track from the Mushroom Cup, the fact that they chose Toad Circuit instead of, like, GCN Luigi Circuit, the fact that they made it look 10 times worse. I could go on, but honestly, the community's already saying their hatred towards this one several times, and the music... I mean, this is like the only thing that could save it. Let's hope that it does. Yep, that definitely sounds like the 7 version, but orchestrated. I mean, on the one hand, I don't feel that much passion in this remix, but on the other hand, they probably took one look at the track and were like, yeah, we're not putting our all into this. Also, I almost feel like the orchestration kind of took away a bit of the personality that the original song had. Don't get me wrong, the original song was already one of the weakest circuit themes in the series, even if I'd still argue it's a bit better than DS and Wii's. But the thing that made it work was the fact that it had this somewhat soft, relaxed vibe to it compared to the other circuit themes. And I just thought that that made it a really nice and soothing listen, even if it wasn't anything special. Now that they've orchestrated it and tried to give it this big band vibe, I'd argue it kind of takes that away from it. What the heck did they do to that part? Yep, already looped. It's also a short one. So yeah, I feel that similarly to this. It's not D tier, but like, yeah. I like it a bit more than this game's iterations of Mario Circuit and Cheese Land, since Cheese Land to me it just kind of removes the original atmosphere that the song had, and its Mario Circuit just sounds like DVD menu music. This one doesn't get a reaction out of me one way or another, which is better than the track at least, I'll give it that. So, with that out of the way, time for a lot of glitchiness. Nah. Next up is Choco Mountain. On the one hand, it is really cool that they decided to return this one from the N64, seeing as many people noted that it would have been a lot better with tricking. And as you can see, they actually gave this one a decent graphical glow up. Like, obviously it doesn't look anywhere near as good as the base game, but it looks okay. I mean, it at least looks like it tried to look better than the N64 original. Which, that's more than I can say for Toad Circuit. So yeah, I like how they made this section of the track take place in a cave now, which then is followed up by a nice little glider section. That, though, is pretty much the only real major change they made to the track. Well, that and adding the little cracks where the boulders fall, which, as I said with the Bowser's Castle track, I do actually quite like that addition. Yeah, and then there's those bumps, and it's over. I've never really felt that strongly for Choco Mountain. On the one hand, I'm kind of glad they returned it, but on the other hand, it doesn't really get that strong of a reaction out of me one way or another. I think C tier, unfortunately C tier once again. Well, I guess this is the first C tier of this one, but like, this has really not been scoring all that well, huh? Like, the game in general is very high weighted, so to see a B, a C, and a D right at the beginning is kind of sad. Where exactly will I rank this, though? Definitely better than these. Maybe here. Yeah, I think there looks fine. Now that that's out of the way, though, what about the music? I will say, this is actually one of the cases where I actually think that the orchestration really helped lift up the tune. I did always quite like it on the N64, but I think the instrument choices really make it pop more. I think that spoke for itself. It's just a really pleasant song. One thing that, I mean, it's that, at the very least, the music's continuing to stay impressive, so that's nice. So what's next then? I mean, after we just went through that mountain of supposedly chocolate, though why does Nintendo insist on this yellow glow for the tracks that are supposed to be in Sweets, by the way? I mentioned this in Sweet Sweet Canyon, but it really gets rid of a lot of the appetizing look that these tracks could have had. Well, anyway. Finally, we end with a very controversial remake of Coconut Mall. What do I think of it? I mean, I'm not really sure what I think of it, honestly. This is the first track that we're looking at that I just don't really feel... I'm really mixed on this, because there's things I think it does really well and things that I don't really like. I'm personally neutral to them changing the conveyor belts. Like, it's fine. It helps people that have trouble seeing the conveyor belts. Oh no, the horror. But I find this turn right. I don't remember if that turn was that punishing on the Wii, but I can. Anyway, yeah. Then obviously I want to take the top route. Though this shot doesn't look nearly as good as it did on the 7, because 7 had little archways here that basically, or that said, thank you for coming. But for some reason they removed those, and I don't know, the shot kind of looks empty without them, in my opinion. Anyway, yeah, that's the reason why this track is controversial, what they did with the cars back there. In the original, there were 3 rows of cars that went back and forth. Then in 7, they removed one of the cars. And this version, they just completely missed the entire point of the cars. And that spinning they did, that was added in an update. Originally, they didn't even do that. Unfortunately, because of that change, I think it's kicked out of S tier, but I do still think it is an A tier track. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it is still Coconut Mall. And speaking of at the end of the day, it's still Coconut Mall, that music. I will say that the plinginess of the piano makes me not like it quite as much as the Wii version, but I mean... I mean, you know what tier Coconut Mall has to go in, right? It's Coconut Mall. Of course it's the top of S. I really had... Spoiler alert for the every track ranking, which I'm honestly just going to close these tabs. I'm not even going to worry about those until the very end. But, I mean, it's Coconut Mall. Of course it's great. So, yeah, I feel like that one's probably going to end up being at the top of the overall rankings in terms of music, because it's just amazing. Anyway, so now that we're done with the mall, which I honestly feel like should have been a summertime location, but whatever, I understand them wanting to leave a good first impression. But, like, at the same time, they also could have swapped it with Waluigi Pinball. And whatever. So now we have Tokyo Blur. This track looks about as good as Toad Circuit, doesn't it? Oh, no, wait, it looks slightly better because there's a bit of a, like, effect on those visors right there. There's a slight color change as it goes up. So it's, like, the one asset in this entire track that isn't solidly colored. Like, I don't want to comment too much on the visuals, but, like, this genuinely looks like something I could make. Also, you know how I said that people complain that a lot of the city tracks have nothing going on in them? Oh, no, there was a mushroom shortcut that they didn't use their mushroom for. That was literally the only thing in the first lap. Oh, no, there's thwomps. That's kind of cool. Driving under that thing is admittedly kind of neat. It's like the only somewhat memorable set piece in the track apart from something else coming up. But you're kind of already seeing the problem. There is nothing happening in this track. I mean, as Jay Frola said, don't the Mario Kart developers live in Japan? Could they not figure out a better way to represent their own country that was a bit more interesting than this? Frankly, this was one of the earlier tracks in Tour, but like, I don't think that that's an excuse to not try to remix it at least a little bit. The only positive is that admittedly this turn right here is kinda neat. And it's already over. That was bad. It wasn't the worst track ever. It's not going in D tier, but it's definitely going towards the bottom of C. I guess it technically has a more interesting layout than Mario Circuit, but only barely. Actually, you know what? Mario Circuit had a more interesting set piece. I'm putting it under that. Still above N64 Toad's Turnpike since it's not just kind of nothing. But yeah, Tokyo Blur is... You know what? No, it's going under Toad's Turnpike. I just convinced myself. Yikes, this DLC is really not faring all that well. The best track is still worse than its original version. Let's always hope the music can make up for it, but I feel like I've said that a few times, so it probably won't. You know, this is exactly what I think of when I think of Tokyo, Japan. Trumpets. Much like the track itself, this music just isn't doing anything for me. Also, is it just me, or does this track almost sound like it wants to be Toad Circuit? Like, you heard Toad Circuit before. Doesn't this sound very familiar? Like, yeah, this part sounds like the part right before the loop. The part earlier, it sounded a lot like the main melody. What is this? I do like that dun 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 a decent amount, but that's not enough to keep the song out of C tier. I think, yeah, no, is it over or under Toad Circuit? I'm gonna go with over Toad Circuit, but under DK Jungle. That seems like a fair spot. I feel like a lot of songs are going to end up ranking down here. So, yeah. Next up, that was definitely one of the tracks of all time, but luckily we're not done with the cup. That was only the opener, so it still has time to pick itself up. Let's go to Shroom Ridge. This is a track that on the surface seems like a really boring one. I mean, first of all, visually it looks ugly as heck, but, like, what do you expect at this point? So, yeah. I think this road is the perfect mix of windy, but not too windy. And then after that, there's a really nice mushroom shortcut to the left here. I can imagine that leading to some really tense moments. I haven't really encountered any myself, but I could imagine that. And I feel like there's just enough cars too, where you can avoid, where they're a bit of a hazard, but they're not overwhelming. So yeah. I mean, not much to say about this one. It's the kind of track that's just decently enjoyable. It doesn't really do anything technically special, but it's pretty good. But I do think it does deserve to be higher than B tier. To be honest, I almost think I ranked DS Wario Stadium too low too. But whatever, that doesn't really matter that much. I mean, it's just the entire ranking. Anyway, yeah, over Super Bell Subway, over DK Jungle, under... Yeah, okay, this seems like a fair spot for it. What about the music, though? I mean, this is a dang good remix, isn't it? Down. 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 Yeah. They knocked it out of the park with that remix. They knocked it out of the park with this track in general. This is a good one. I can see why many people consider it to be the best of the first wave. This and another one coming up are the ones that people debate on which one's the best of the first wave. So yeah. Lucky Cat, yeah. So next up... So now we're going to Sky Garden. I mean, doesn't this look exactly like it did on the GBA? Don't you remember that good old iconic orange road? I mean, it totally wasn't this really nice turquoise type color. I guess teal would be the best one. I don't know. I just know that it totally wasn't that color. Anyway, that's like the only real... A lot of people really don't like this remake, and I don't really understand why. I mean, to be honest, this track doesn't feel like the original Sky Garden in the slightest, to be fair. The original one just had this really entrancing vibe to it, but this one, I don't know, it ain't half bad. I like that little leaf that you bounce off of, and that mushroom as well is kind of cool. I think it's a solid one. It's not quite as heavy on the vibes as the original, but I'd still say it's solid. I think right here is a good spot for it, honestly, which I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for, but trust me, it's not going to be number 10 on the list forever. What about the music? I mean, obviously it's a lot more energetic than the original, kind of like how the aesthetic of the original has shifted for a more energetic direction. But I mean, come on, it still sounds amazing. Da, 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 da. Yeah, that seems like a reasonable spot for it. Wow, S tier is actually growing on the music side. As I said, tracks are weak, but at least the soundtrack is mostly in check. With the city tracks kind of holding it down a little bit. But yeah. So now we're at the finale of the first wave. Good old Ninja Hideaway. Probably one of the more divisive tracks in the Mario Kart community. Which, I mean, if there's anything about the first wave, it's that it has a few divisive ones. But yeah. Ninja Hideaway is actually it's the kind of track that people either seem to really like or really don't. Partially because it can be a little overwhelming at first. First of all, the aesthetics. I actually think that the simple color look kind of benefits this track a bit. It gives it this very architectural look, I feel. And then there's this thing, which is pretty cool. As you've already seen, there are so many paths you can take in this one. That's kind of what it's characterized for. Just all of these different directions you can go. Like, you want to just start going up, then just start going up. Leading to a lot of really cool things. Not to mention, that whole red and pink tint that the track has, it looks awesome. The lighting engine really helps carry how this track looks. But it's just a really good track in general. God dang it, nose. Alright, for the rest of this video, my nose is going to have to be pinched because apparently it decided to bleed right in the middle of the stream. Anyway, this is a good track. I like the branching paths and I think that it looks nice. It's the best track in the DLC so far. What about the music, though? Could the music live up to the hype of how the track actually looks? Up, building up, building up. I think that this look really helps add to the... I think that this whole super hardcore 8-bit vibe really adds to the track. I don't think it's quite enough to put in an S tier, but it definitely deserves a high A tier. Maybe under Shroom Ridge, though. Still, though, Ninja Hideaway is just a really solid all-around track. So, yeah, the Booster Course Pass really... I mean, Wave 1 started off terribly, but actually kind of picked itself up towards the end. But we are not done, because I forgot to retitle the video. What the... There. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Probably should have thought to do that before I started recording, but anyway, we're not done yet because we still got Wave 2 to go through, as you saw me type. Yeah, Turnip Cup. Time for New York. This was another one of the earliest tracks in Tour from what I remember. It was like one of the ones that came when the game launched. I will say, for a Tour track, I'm actually kind of impressed with the attention to detail on these billboards right here. Like, the tour tracks usually just look worse and worse the more and more you look at them, but this one, usually I think it actually is fairly competent. I hate when that happens, but anyway, yeah. You're just going around some of the... I mean, it is weird that a track that takes place in New York is... First of all, it doesn't have, like, any cars in it. And second of all, a lot of it doesn't even take place within the actual city that it's known for. Or, like, it takes place in the city, but, like... Who the heck was asking for that dirt path to be the main set piece of this track? Yeah, if you go left on that junction, then you can go past that car, which is pretty cool. And now for the third lap, you go a different direction. Similar to Paris Promenade, it eases you into the gimmick. But I gotta be honest, it barely feels any different, see? Oh no, wait, I forgot. There's like a split second where you go through this area, and then you go through a little underground. You go through a parking garage, I guess. You know what, the third lap actually is pretty solid. In general, I don't think that this track really offers that much. It is a little on the odder side, but it's okay. I think B tier is another solid pick for... I think it's under Paris Promenade. It's another solid pick, but I feel like I'd have just a slight bit more of an attachment to Paris Promenade. What about the music, though? I mean, you heard me singing it a bit earlier. I mean, it's not the most complex song or anything, but I don't know, when it's on, I want to sing along to it. So because of that, it goes a bit over Paris Promenade. Which, yeah, I think that's fair. They're both about on the same level for me in terms of both track design and music, so I think that checks out. Now that we're done in the surprisingly not very bustling streets of New York, really, well, at the very least we're getting all of my least favorite tracks all out of the way in this video, but like, I don't know why they decided to return my least favorite Mario Circuit. Yeah, I said it. This is my least favorite Mario Circuit. I mean, graphically it looks ugly. What do you want me to say? I think that this may be one of the worst looking tracks in the Booster Force Pass, honestly. It's almost laughable how bad this looks. But, yeah. That turn right there is why I'm not really a huge fan of it. It is nearly impossible to take that without brake drifting. And, I mean, apart from that, there's just not really any... Like, that turn is really the only set piece this track has. Apart from that, it's just really boring. And because the only real set piece that the track has is something I dislike, combined with the fact that it still doesn't have a visual upgrade, I'm gonna say it, it's the worst track so far. There's just really nothing that I like about it whatsoever. I'm kind of embarrassed that they decided to return this instead of so many other better picks. Even from the Super Nintendo, there was still Koopa Beach 1 and, well, at the time, Bowser's Castle 3, but if you scroll down, you can clearly see that they eventually returned that one. Anyway, what about the music? Is the music at least decent? Oh my god, Mario Kart! I'm so amazed. They replicated the original song exactly. I can't believe this. They made a completely average, not worth remembering in the slightest remix of the song. I'm gonna put it under DK Jungle because I like the Donkey Kong Country theme a bit more than this one, but I do still think it is an overall better song than the ones beneath it. But like, what do you want me to say? If they couldn't be bothered to try making the song interesting, I shouldn't be bothered to try to rate it any better than it currently is. That's my take, at least. Yikes, this track, much like Toad Circuit, this track striked out. So, yeah, that was a rough one. But now we're getting to one that a lot of people really love, so theoretically I should love it too. N64 Calamari Desert. People seem to love this remake, like it is one of the best remakes in the entire Booster Course Pass. And as for me, well, you'll see what I think about the major change of the track when we get to it. But for now, we just gotta enjoy Calamari Desert. I do like how they added a few hills in the background. The original didn't even have that. It was just completely bare. And you can see those good old-fashioned tour arrows to the side. So, yeah. Calamari Desert has always been a kind of okay track on its own, so I'm not really that upset they decided to spruce it up. And yeah, if you have a brain, you can probably figure out what they did to spruce it up, but, you know, I wanted to play up the drama a little bit. So, yeah, somehow they constructed this entire turn arrow thing right in the middle of it. And yeah, you're driving on the train tracks, which is why people seem to love this remake so much. I mean, it is something really cool. I don't like the fact that like, look at that. Look at that reaction time you need when you're on the higher CCs. What reasonable person would have been able to react to that train on one of their first playthroughs? Yeah, that right there pretty much proved to me why I don't like this track. Because of the fact that most of the tunnel is in a turn, there's like no time to react to the train. And even if you like that change, look, it barely lasted like 5 seconds. It was really not nearly as impressive as I think everyone says it is. I'm sorry, but I don't really like this remake all that much. I know a lot of people do, but I'm just not a fan. I don't think it deserves D tier, but I think maybe like, I don't know, let's put it here for now. But the music, surely the music can live up to the original. So the original song had this really nice, relaxing, on the prairie type vibe to it. You know what would be the perfect choice to help encapsulate that? This. Coming up. Right here. Why did they change that really nice soft whistle to that? It sounds terrible in my opinion. They also added a bunch of swerves to the main melody that weren't there in the original, which I'm also not really a huge fan of. It makes the song sound a lot less easygoing than it was originally. Why does this part sound off rhythm? No. Just no. Not D tier. I think under Cheeseland. This track, I'm kind of surprised, but not really that much how poorly this ended up scoring. The track itself is... Actually, no, I rank the track itself way too low. Actually, it is more or less where I think I would want it to go. But, yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of this remake. I may be alone on that, but I don't really like much of anything about this version. It's just not really one of my personal best picks. But at least we end on a high note, which is something this cup desperately needed, because as you can see, this cup has not been doing well. We're back to Wave 1 standards. Waluigi Pinball. This is a track that I'm really mixed on, partially because I'm very easily influenced by what people think on the internet, and thus have become really split on this one. This track looks absolutely stunning, first of all. I mean, just look at this. For Booster Course Pass standards, this looks just mouth-wateringly good. So yeah. As you can see, this person knows how to play video games. And then there's those balls. I'm not really sure what I think of them being on the track. Oh wow, that fell with a thud, didn't it? But anyway. I'm not really sure what I personally think of it. I feel like the hazards are... It's kind of a similar situation to the trains where it's just so big that I don't really have fun with it. Kind of similar to this pinball table where it honestly sometimes just feels completely random. Similar to N64 Calamari Desert in this game, this is a track that I want to like more than I do. But unlike N64 Calamari Desert, this one has some really good style. Where should a I think I think above Neo Bowser City is a good place for this one. A track that has really good aesthetics, but I'm not really a huge fan of the actual gameplay, which I know is going to upset a lot of people, but a lot of people like it, a lot of people don't care for it, so I think in the middle of the two should be a nice median. And the music, it sounds awesome, right? For absolutely no reason, let's listen to the other track that plays this song. Wait a second. Bamboozle! Look, they're even the same length. Yeah, for some reason this is the only track in the entire game to repeat a song. So because of that, we will not be ranking this. I mean, obviously it would go where Wario Stadium is, but... like, why should I rank it? It's just the same song. Yeah. So with that out of the way, oh hey, I remember when I used to watch Pro Cephia Gaming, that's who's playing this. Now I almost feel kind of bad for insulting their gaming skills. But yeah. Please stop glitching, computer. This is already kind of annoying. I guess, I don't know, part of me thinks that I'm being too harsh on a lot of these tracks, but it's just tough for me to tell because I'm generally too harsh on things in general. What about Propeller Cup, though? We begin with Sydney Sprint. I mean, we need to have some representation from, what was this, Australia? Yeah. There are some pretty interesting locales in the background, I will say. This is a nice opening shot with that little spinning ride. Oh yeah, and that building to the left, I don't know what it's called because I didn't do any research before this, but it does look really cool. Yeah. And in general, this track... I will say I'm really confused why you approach the section from the back on the first lap, considering, as you can clearly see by looking at it, it's clearly designed for the other way around. So I'll give my opinions on that section when we get to the part where you inevitably actually go on that the right way. But in the meantime, you just get to enjoy these sights. Aw, red shell. Oh. Well, anyway. Yeah. Unfortunately, this one also falls into that tour city track trap where there's just not a lot going on. Unless you like driving on the grass, apparently. But yeah, here it is. I actually quite like this part right here. This mini Excite Bike Arena-esque section. But if you approach it from the wrong angle, then you'll fly right off of it. It's a nice kind of somewhat difficult section. And I don't think it would have been nearly as cool in Tour, considering it tries to keep you on. So, yeah. Unfortunately, now that we're past that one section, I really... Oh, no, we get to do it on it again, yay. I, for some reason, thought that you went on it backwards another time, but maybe I was just wrong. But yeah. Then you go through all of this. And then you fly into this building that you went into before. That's kind of cool. But, like, you already went in it, so it doesn't feel quite as cool as it could have. Not to mention the building is completely empty, but a few audience members. I don't really care for this one. I like the section where you trick a bunch, but apart from that, it just has nothing going on. I guess because of that, it technically goes up here with Paris Promenade and New York Minute, but I'm actually going to put it down here-ish. I think, like... Yeah, maybe here is a good spot for it. It's just not really all that special. But let's just take a moment to think. What about the music? It almost feels like a celebration just listening to it. Yeah, those... Sorry, I got a little distracted for a bit. There's really only one spot a track like this can go, right? I mean... Does it really deserve S tier? No. So I think about here is a good spot for it, but that is a really high A tier. It's honestly a must listen for me. It's just... It really carries an otherwise really bland track.
Garage door open.
It's one of the cases where the track completely changes whether you're playing with audio on or not. What about Snowland, though? I'm going to talk about the music when we get to it, so sorry if I seem a little distracted during this section, because the music is kind of the thing that I really want to talk about with this one. But as you can see, they gave this track a really nice visual glow up. Despite the simple coloring and stuff, it actually looks really nice, and the road having this icy coat to it just looks amazing. I also like the item boxes skating in, just selling this vibe that you're skating. It's just such a... I mean, just look at all the movement in this track. It feels so much more alive than so many of the other tracks at the beginning. Yeah, the one complaint that I have with this remake is that beginning section feels so lively, and then this section just... I mean, it exists alright. So yeah. It was also really short, surprisingly, so that's something. I like Snowland, though. I think this was a good remake. It did everything that it should have, but I still don't think it's enough to elevate an otherwise kind of mad track. Here seems like a decent spot for it. Why did I put Dry Desert so high anyway? I don't know. But now it's time for me to talk about the music. I've actually seen a surprising amount of people come out and say that they flat out don't like this song. They think that it's jolly to a point of being corny, and that it's just really uncomfortable to listen to. I'm not going to name names partially because I don't know any, but I gotta say, I personally wholeheartedly disagree with that statement. I mean, listen to this and tell me that it doesn't put a smile on your face. I also love how the remix of the song fits with the more ice rinky vibe of this version as opposed to the original's more Christmassy vibe. Yeah. This one has always been one of my favorites from Super Circuit. This song has always been one of my... Oh my god, A tier is about to explode. Sorry about that. There's just so many songs that I really like in this game. I think it's just gonna get more and more bloated as I go. I think for liking it, yeah. Maybe even over Ninja Hideaway. Yeah, that seems like a good spot for it. I mean, it's just so jolly and pleasant. How could you not love it? But, yeah. Honestly, the more and more this goes on, the more and more I'm worried that this list is going to... that I'm going to disagree with this list in the future. But you know what? That's the future, and the present is the present. Just like ads are ads. Though I'm kind of surprised it's taken this long for an ad to show up. Why did you completely ignore the timestamp that I literally just clicked? I clicked you because I wanted to go to you. Is it really that hard to comprehend? Anyway, Mushroom Gorge. I'm glad to see them return this one from Wii. I mean, I thought that it was actually pretty good in the 7 version. I remember not really liking it on the Wii, but the 7 version actually kind of improved my opinion of it just because that game controls better. Yeah, I said it. But yeah. Not really... Oh yeah. This is just one of the best structured tracks in the game. As you can see, they introduced the bouncy mushroom, had you go off a few more to solidify the gimmick of the bouncy mushroom, have you get hit by a shell in a very BS way, and not really kind of in there. Then you enter this crystally cave, which actually looks really nice in this version. And then bounce off of these, which... Okay, this is getting kind of embarrassing to watch. But yeah, that takes you on a glider path, which... lets you continue. Oh, okay, but you can do the mushroom shortcut. What was I saying? It's I think it's the definition of a good, not great track. I feel like if you were to ask me what a B tier track is, I would point to Mushroom Gorge. It doesn't really do anything all that special, partially because bouncy mushrooms have been used in 7 and 8 to death, but I still think it's solid. It's enjoyable. Yeah, I don't feel nearly as disappointed as I do. I think it's over Dry Dry Desert. The reason why I rank Dry Dry Desert so high in B is because it's a solid track, and I think I feel the same for Mushroom Gorge, so yeah, makes sense. What about the music, though? I mean, it's from Wii, so it's gotta sound good, but, I mean... Okay, first of all, did they even orchestrate this one at all? This literally sounds like it's ripped from Wii. I mean, it's going in A tier. I think I feel a similar way to this one as I do with Grumble Volcano. How did Wario's Gold Mine rank under Grumble Volcano? I gotta fix that. But, yeah. You're going up here, Wario's Gold Mine. I got a little distracted, but yeah, I feel similarly to Mushroom Gorge and Grumble Volcano. They're just the definition of good Wii songs. So, that's that. Now we got one last track to look at. Sorry, I'm not really the best at... Oh my god. This is... So I need to briefly explain something that happens in not just this fan base, but pretty much any fan base ever. Whenever something is widely hated, there's soon after a group of people that are like, it's not that bad, you're really overthinking this, which then kind of causes a bit of a divide. I'm personally on the side that hates this track, and because a lot of people don't seem to understand why, let me explain. First of all, I do like the fact that they tried something different with the Fall Guys style, but, like, this looks a little too bright to me. But, yeah, that's a bit of a nitpick. That was not a good argument to start with. I mean, this isn't the only Sweets track in the game, though. At the very least, they decided to not cover it in a P like yellow, so that's nice. Yeah. But, like, look at how awkward the jumping feels. And then there's that section where you can't even see where you're landing, despite there being a pit in the middle. And then there's just... It just feels wrong to play on. And there's this turn, which is oddly sharp, just completely out of nowhere. Which then leads you back to the beginning. It all just feels so wrong to me. Its aesthetic isn't all that interesting. I'm putting it in F tier, I'm sorry. It's just one of those tracks that not only has so much wrong with it, but I can't think of a single redeeming quality about it. Though I guess there are worse tracks out there, so I guess D tier is a better spot for it, but I just don't like it. What about the music, though? Can the music at least make it up for it? You know what? The more and more I listen to this, the more and more it kind of starts to grow on me. I mean, I can separate the song from the track, right? It's a good one. I don't think it's quite an A tier for me yet, but I do still quite like it. I think here's a good spot for it. And with that, I guess the video's done. No more of that section at the end where I try to update the overall rankings, so I guess with that, I'll see you around. All one of you. Bye.